All right, how we doing? My name is Ryan Coffey. I am the fire department interview coach with 911 Interview Coaching. And today I want to talk about the ride-along checklist. So I've got two objectives. The first one is I want you to understand what the goals of the ride-along are. And then the second one is going to be a checklist that follows. So we're going to go through both of those. So before you show up, you need to set a goal. That's first and foremost, right? Because if you don't have a goal, then what are we doing? We're not just going through the motions. So you got to figure out, what do I actually want from this, right? I want you to think about that. And so before anything else, you got to get honest about where you are in your journey, right? Because the goal that you have shapes everything. It's going to shape how you show up. It's going to shape what questions you ask and also what you pay attention to. So I want you to ask yourself and write this down. Why am I doing this ride along? And write down the reasons why you're doing it, because that's going to help you formulate your goal. Once you have your goal in mind, then you can work backward. Okay. And I want you to think of it like this. You're going to go on a road trip. Okay. And some people just go by the seat of their pants. They're like, hey, I'm going to just go from town to town and just kind of figure my way out with no real direction. And some people are like, no, I'm driving across the country. My plan is to go from, I did a road trip from Spokane to Toronto, actually, Canada. If I didn't have Toronto, Canada as my goal, I wouldn't know which way to go. You need to have a goal. And then that way, along the way, you can kind of figure out what do you want to do along the way. And I went to my parents' old family place in North Dakota. I went to Mount Rushmore. I went to Yellowstone. So I got to plan things along the way. So the point of this is you got to have a goal in mind, because that's how it's going to help you figure out where you're going. Okay. And then you can work backward. So once you've got your goal in mind, then you get to reverse engineer it, right? So what outcome do I want by the end of the day, right? In terms of the ride along, what do I need to learn, prove, or to confirm to get to my goal? Okay. And what does success look like when I walk out the door? These are some questions that are going to help you figure out what your goal is, and then your actions that you need to take on these ride alongs. Okay. Let's talk about the goal of the ride along. I kind of broke this down into three categories, main categories for people, right? The first one is self-assessment. So this is going to help those that aren't sure if firefighting is good for them. They're just like, hey, I need to figure out if this is the right career path. Okay. For some, it might be actually just the goal two, which is to make an impression, right? Am I the right fit for this department and the culture? Help me be memorable for the right reasons. And then goal three is a little bit more advanced. You're like, hey, I know that this is the career path I want to be on. I want to show up and be authentically ready for my interview. And part of that's getting some information about the department, so that way I can connect with them. So let's talk about these goals a little bit more, right? The first goal, which is the self-assessment, this is really for those who are unsure if the career is right for them. So this might help you confirm that the job is actually what you think it is, right? You get an inside scoop of what a fire department is by doing a ride along. And so you're going to come in with that idea of like, my goal is to make sure that this is what I want. What am I looking for in a career? Am I looking for constant work? Am I looking to be behind a desk? Am I looking for constant physical activity or problem solving? If you're asking yourself those questions and then you do a ride along, now you get an opportunity to go, okay, I confirmed that this is what I'm looking for, or I confirmed that this isn't what I'm looking for as a career. There's a lot of daily things that we do as firefighters that might not be appealing. Maybe there's waiting, right? Maybe you're transporting to the hospital and you're waiting for an hour to deliver your patient. Maybe you don't like the culture of that particular department or the culture of firefighting in general. Maybe you don't want a career that is so physically demanding like firefighting. And maybe you go on a call where there's some sadness, right? There's a lot of death in this career. There's a lot of people that are going through hard times. And so maybe that emotional weight is too much for you. And you're like, firefighting is not the right career for me. Hopefully you can honestly ask yourself if this is the right career before you're going to invest years into this process. It took me 5 years to get hired on. Now, mind you, 3 of it was passive. I wasn't really applying myself. And once I started to apply myself, it took me about 2 years to get hired on. But that's still a long time. And in the meantime, I actually was also going through fire science. I was volunteering as a firefighter. And so it took a long time. And so this is a tough career to get into. And so it might be something where you get to evaluate, hey, is firefighting the right career for me, or should I do something else? Okay. Goal 2, making an impression, right? So this is for those who know that they want to be a firefighter and you're kind of like dating around, right? You're looking at different fire departments and you're trying to find the right one to go steady with. So I also want you to think as ride-alongs are really a job interview. They're another job interview. And so you want to make a really good impression at that job interview, right? Fire departments were tight-knit, and hiring is heavily influenced on a cultural fit and your personal reputation. And so if you come in and you're exhibiting traits of a firefighter, you're acting like a firefighter, you're making a good impression, I'm going to be like, man, I really liked Ryan. Like, I enjoyed him. He had good work ethic. He was easy to conversate with. He was, appropriately funny. He helped out. I could see him working here. A ride-along is one of the few chances that you get to get in front of people who may one day interview you or even work beside you before you're even an applicant. And so it's a great resource for you to learn about that department. And again, I want you to be memorable for the right reasons. So things like having genuine curiosity, strong work ethic, being humble, having a mindset of somebody who's already thinking and acting like a firefighter. Those are things that we're looking for on a ride-along. And so when you get that ride along and you get that information, you're going to be able to bring real reasons to the interview of why you want to work for that department, right? And then goal 3, right? This is the kind of all-encompassing. These are for more people that are like, for sure, like this is the department I want to work for. I already know I want to be a firefighter. And so you get to absorb how the calls are handled and how the crew communicates. What's their interpersonal dynamics? You get to take note of what the station life looks like and what the department values are. And the more you learn, the more that you're authentically going to be able to speak during the interviews. And the big part of doing ride-alongs for whatever goal you have, right? If it's goal 1, 2, or 3, right? If you're figuring out if firefighting is right, it's right, you're finding the right department, or this is the right department. It's your opportunity to ask questions that you can't find online, right? You go online and it's all generic information, and there's good information there, but those are all like kind of surface level. It's all surface level information. I want you to get deeper, and the only way that you're going to get deeper is talking to firefighters that work at those departments. So goals are really important because they shape the direction that we're going, and firefighters are goal oriented. So I want you to get better at thinking through what your goals are and figuring out what the steps are to achieve those goals, because those are skills of a firefighter that we look for in the interview. Okay? So now let's talk about the ride-along checklist. And I broke this down into before your ride-along, during the ride-along, and after the ride-along. Okay? So before, right? This is the preparation that is going to set you apart from others, and this is going to help you be prepared before you walk in the door. Okay? So preparation checklist, right? Basic stuff here. Know which fire station you're doing your ride-along at. Know the address and know where to park, right? Plan ahead. Planning is a skill that fire departments are looking for in a firefighter, okay? Know your start time, okay? That also means show up early. I would say 10 to 15 minutes early with a buffer for parking and traffic, etc. Be ready to talk about your interest in the fire service, okay? This is a given. You're going to have to talk about yourself. So be prepared for that. Also, know what you're looking for in a fire department, because they're probably going to ask you questions about that as well. You're going to have to talk about yourself. That includes your interests, your hobbies, your work, your family. Like, they're going to want to get to know you. And you're probably going to want to get to know them as well. So you're going to be asking them about their interests, their hobbies. What did they do for work before they became a firefighter here? Tell me about your family. Do you have any pets? Are you married? Etc. Be genuinely curious. I would also recommend having some specific questions prepared. You can talk about the culture, maybe the schedule, training, promotions, call types, etc. I would try to tailor your questions towards things that you can't figure out yourself, right? Go online, get to know about the department, and go, okay, I've got all these questions answered, but these are the questions that I'm curious about that I can't find online. And that way you're coming in more prepared, and that way you're asking good questions. I also recommend bring a small pocket-sized notebook and a pen so that way you can jot down observations and insights. right? Maybe they're using keywords like grit and resilience. Okay, cool. These are keywords that they're using at their department with each other a lot. Take note of that. Write down names of people that you have interacted with. Oh, I talked with Captain Smith. I talked with, Firefighter Coffee. Got it. I want to personally thank them later, maybe. Maybe some notes about calls that you went on and the things that you noticed. Wow, I got to see your fire department perform amazing customer service on this call, and then explain the call, right? Everything that you're writing down is going to help you build a better interview when you interview with that department. Okay. I would also say bring food. Depends on how long your ride along is, but if you're going to be there through dinner, bring breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I would also recommend bringing some cash. So a lot of fire departments, they do group meals and they want everybody to pitch in. Food is a big part of how we connect with each other. It brings everybody to the same table. We're all eating the same meal and we get to break bread with one another. And so if you have the opportunity to break bread with that crew, they invite you to do that, absolutely participate. Even if you brought your own food, right? Because that's a time you get to bond with them. Help them prepare the meals, right? Help them show them that you're like, hey, I've got work ethic. I'm going to jump in and help out. That's what we're looking for. Also, when you're going to do a ride along, you're going to need to bring a fire station offering. Okay. And I don't want you to be cheap because this is an impression that you're making. And so when you get bottom of the barrel treats, they're discount treats. It's a reflection of who you are as a person. Okay. So I advise bringing 2 options, one healthy and one unhealthy. That way you're capturing as many people as possible, because there's some people that are sweet tooths and there's some people that are like, hey, I want to look good and be healthy. And part of that is what I eat. So healthy options, Greek yogurt and some berries, maybe a veggie tray, some assorted fruits. I kind of think the yogurt and berries is a really good option just because it's kind of like a little bit sweeter and still yet healthy. I think the veggie tray is low on that priority list, right? I would say the yogurt and berries, maybe some assorted fruits. Also, some unhealthy options, good quality donuts. Everybody loves a bacon maple bar, okay? If you get a variety of donuts, though, you hit a variety of people's different interests and tastes, so that's an idea. You can bring in some cookies and bring in some ice cream. I will say this, we prefer store-bought stuff just because we can, more validate the quality of it, meaning like, we don't know what your cooking habits are. If you have a spouse or if you're really good at baking or something like that and like it's fire and like you've gotten lots of compliments, I encourage you to bring that in. That's a great talking point even. But if it's like wishy-washy or not super good, questionable baking skills, just go get the store-bought stuff. That's going to set you up better for success. This is, after all, an impression you're trying to make. Let's talk about appearance and hygiene, right? This is still in the before preparation checklist, okay? So wear clean, ironed business casual clothing that covers your tattoos. So if you've got, a sleeve of tattoos, a lot of fire departments don't mind that anymore, but let's cover it up because some people do, and it's, again, the impression you're trying to make, okay? Let's talk about what business casual actually is, because we've had a few ride-alongs at my departments that didn't know what business casual was and tried to defend what they were wearing when we tried to correct them and help them out and say, hey, business casual is this. So let's talk about it. Blue or black slacks, okay? Nice looking pants, blue or black polo or collared shirt, right? No logos, no flashy prints. This blue polo is a great example of what business casual shirt can look like. Black closed-toe shoes with non-slip soles. So I would say like black sneakers, okay? You don't need to wear dress shoes on this. Dress shoes are overkill. So like a nice black clean sneaker. You're also going to want to wear a black belt. You're also going to want to bring something for inclement weather, okay? Typically black or blue as well. Minimal labels and designs. So for inclement weather, a hat, a jacket, sweatshirt, some gloves maybe, okay? Also bring some workout clothes and shoes, right? Make sure they're clean. Again, black or blue shorts and a t-shirt with minimal designs. If they invite you to work out, please go and work out with them. Be open-minded. You're setting an example. If you're afraid to go work out with them, then they're going to be like, well, why would I want to hire this person? They don't even want to work out with me, right? If they offer it, go for it. And that means if you work out, you need to bring showering supplies. So bring a towel, bring body wash, shampoo, conditioner, hair product, extra clean underwear, face lotion, whatever you need to be to look presentable and smell presentable again after your workout, okay? First and foremost, be clean shaven. That's part of looking and being a firefighter, right? If you want me to see you as a firefighter, you need to show up day one prepared for your ride along. That's clean shaven, and your hair is professionally styled, you're freshly showered, there's no body odor, no cologne or perfumes. People are sensitive to that, patients especially, and no excessive jewelry or facial piercings. If you have those things, you're not really going for the image of a firefighter that we look for, okay? Now, let's talk about during the ride along, okay? Because this is going to be the conduct that helps build trust, and it's going to help you earn respect and be remembered for the right reasons, okay? So, be on time, right? That means be 10 minutes early. This kind of goes back to what I already said. Know your start time and be 10 to 15 minutes early. Bring your state-issued ID or driver's license. You might need that. Always be polite, respectful, and friendly to everybody, okay? Introduce yourself, anyone you make eye contact with. So if I make eye contact with you, I'm expecting you to come up to me and say hi, introduce yourself, and shake my hand, right? Because that's what firefighters do, okay? Give me a firm handshake, right? Now, if somebody is in a conversation with somebody else, read the room a little bit. I'm expecting you to kind of understand social norms here. If I'm in the middle of a conversation, I happen to look over and glance at you, we make brief eye contact, like you don't need to come over and, butt into our conversation. Wait for an appropriate time to come over when I'm alone and introduce yourself then. Be like, hey, I saw you over there. We made eye contact really briefly. I just wanted to come and introduce myself. My name is Ryan Coffey. Pleasure to meet you. What's your name? Right? That's the kind of thing that we're looking for. Again, avoid interrupting conversations. Don't use bad language. We had a ride along do this, and it's not, we're all adults. We can handle bad language, but you're not making a really good impression on us when you come in cussing. It's just not the right move. You're going to be given safety protocols and instructions from an officer. Follow those, right? Listen to what the officer says. If you can't follow directions from a ride along, you can't follow directions as a firefighter. Also, say thank you. Don't be overly gracious, but just, make sure that you're showing gratitude throughout the day. Stay off your phone. So that means silence it, put it on do not disturb, turn it off even. A lot of people are glued to their phones these days, and so that means they pull it out all the time. Stay off your phone. I don't want somebody at my department that's constantly glued to their phone, because that means they're not connecting with the firefighters, and that's what you should be doing. Act like a firefighter. That means be professional, show that you're a part of the team, and humility, right? So think about what those actions look like on a ride along. Professionalism is showing up prepared, clean, ready to go, jumping to help out. That's part of teamwork, right? If you see somebody cleaning, if you see somebody doing dishes, I still do this. I've been in the fire service since 2015 as a professional firefighter. I still pick up my coworkers' plates and I take them and clean them and put them in the dishwasher for them. I still do that to this day because that's part of who I am. That's part of me being a professional. It's part of me being a team player. And it's me just trying to set a good example for others. If firefighters are sitting in recliners, which we don't do this very often, but if it happens, don't sit in them, even if you're invited to do it. It's a test. That's not your place to sit. Ask a captain or an officer or a probationary firefighter, hey, where's a good spot for me to sit when we have idle time? Right? And they will tell you, hey, I want you to sit over at this table, etc. And then when you're going to leave, don't forget to thank the crew, especially the officer. Now, you don't necessarily need to go around and shake everybody's hand. Maybe, understand social norms, but just say thank you to everybody and appreciate their time. Okay? Let's talk about some engagement and some interaction during the ride along. These are going to be some things to help you out. So offer help when it's appropriate. That means cleaning, cooking, gear checks, etc. Ask what you can do to help. They might say, there's nothing at this time. I need to do this gear check. It's, I'm checking specific medical equipment, but you can stand by and watch me, right? And then maybe as they're going through it, maybe you ask some questions. Read the room a little bit. You can tell if they're going to get a little bit annoyed with you, but if they genuinely want to help you and answer some questions, then, go for it. Why not? Part of that is being curious and asking thoughtful questions. Don't ask questions just to ask questions. Make sure that they're genuine. You want to understand, hey, how come you do the rig check like this? Or what does your rig check look like in the morning? Why are you checking your SCBA pack like that, right? Asking some genuine questions that you just genuinely don't know. Okay, perfect. I would say also observe actively, right? So watch how the crews interact and operate. You're kind of like a fly on the wall. You get to be in the lion's den, so to speak. So you get to watch and see what people are doing and how they're interacting and go, man, I really love how jovial everyone is with each other. They're all playful. They take jokes. They're making genuine interest. They're asking updates like, how is your 4 days off? What did you do with your family? How's your son doing on T-ball, right? Those are the things that I would look for if I'm doing a ride along. Like, wow, this is a family here. They're genuinely interested in each other. And I love that. Again, stay off your phone unless it's absolutely necessary. This is like emergency calls, ordering food if you have to order food, etc. But if you have some idle time, have a book or some homework for your downtime. Okay. Now let's talk about after the ride along, right? And this is a phase that people miss often, right? This is some follow-up and it's some reflection that kind of closes the loop on all of this. So, and I'm also going to give you some things to be aware of that most people don't think about. So after you ride along, right, you should be reflecting about what you learned from the ride along, okay? That means as soon as you get out of there or any chance you had, right, you're writing down the names of the firefighters you interacted with, writing down the things that you learned and liked about the department or the ride along. If you can't do this during the ride along because it's just so busy, make sure as soon as you leave, go out to your car, take 10 minutes to just think through the day and write down all the stuff that you can remember, because our brains, we're going to forget stuff if it's not wrote down. So especially if it's a year or two before you get to interview with them, whatever happens, right? You've got it written down in a log. Reflect on how the crew members communicated, maybe how they made decisions, maybe how they operated as a team, because you can use this to strengthen your interview stories, right? The reason why I want to work here is because of X, Y, and Z that I observed on my ride along. And then also, if it's appropriate, send a thank you message or an email, right? You can write a letter, you can send it to the department. That means if you're going to do that, ask for an email address or ask for a mailing address, right? So that's going to be part of your preparation as hey, if I'm going to send a follow-up, how do I do that? Okay. Some things to be aware of, okay? You do not share patient information. You don't share case details, nothing that you witnessed on scene. It's not by text, not by phone or in person, because HIPAA applies to you, right? HIPAA prevents people's medical information from being released. You can be sued for it. So anything that you see, you're witness to, you don't repeat to anybody because that is inappropriate. Now, I kind of want to clarify this because it can be confusing. You can talk about some calls, but you can't give any personally identifying information. So that means no name, no date of birth, not a street address, not even a street intersection necessarily, something that could be identifiable. You can talk about man, we went on this crazy call where this patient had chest pain. And it was amazing to see your firefighters knew exactly what to do. They got in, it turned into a full-on CPR. They started doing chest compressions, and it was like watching a machine get to work here because one person started compressions, the other guy got on the airway, then the other guy got on the AED, they hooked him up, and they went through a full sequence, and there was a guy on a timer. It was amazing to watch you guys work as a machine. Something like that is okay because you can't identify the patient, right? So it's okay to talk about that in an interview or, recap it with a family member or something like that, but no personal identifying information, okay? That also includes no photos. Be careful of the stories, right? Locations or details on social media. Don't post anything on social media, okay? Nothing about your ride along on social media. I can't stress this enough. Any platform, any of the ones that I've listed here or any others that you can think of, don't post it, okay? Don't share any personal information about the crew members on any platform either. We don't want our photos taken. We don't want our photos posted. If you're going to do a photo, ask for permission. I would just say don't do this. It's just uncomfortable for us. If you want to take a photo of the rig, ask if what you can take a photo of, right? Because maybe you're trying to prepare for your interview. Great, go for it and do that. If you want to do a ride along again, wait a reasonable amount of time before requesting another slot. This is you're not entitled to be able to do a ride along. And fire departments can be like, no, we're cutting you off. Maybe you were a bad guest, whatever. And so wait an appropriate amount of time before requesting another ride along. On top of that, I want to say that a lot of departments don't allow ride alongs during the hiring process. So let's say, you're wanting to work for a certain department. They're going to be like, yeah, we don't do ride alongs during the hiring process. It's unfair. And so that means that you have to plan ahead. And that means you're like, okay, when do they typically hire? And one thing to think about is, when do academies take place, right? Spring, summer, fall, winter, right? Some departments are different. That's typically those seasons for academies, but not all fire departments run an academy in all 4 seasons. So figure out what that is, and you'll kind of understand the hiring cycle. Okay. And that means you got to be in the ride along program before they start that hiring cycle. Okay. Also, violating any privacy or conduct rules after the fact can result in a permanent ban and can follow you into your interview process. You break some rules on the ride along, probably aren't going to get hired. It's not a good look. So those are just some things to be aware of that's going to help you be successful in the ride along. And so I want you to also understand, I have a checklist that's going to be a free download for you. I'm going to send the link below. I do this interview coaching. I have a full foundational program to help you build your foundation of interview skills. And then to level it up, I do mock interviews to help you practice what you learned in a high pressure situation. I record those and I give you live feedback. So if you're interested, go to my website below and I'll get you hooked up. Thank you and take care, and I'll see you in the next video.